The 17 News at Sunrise podcast is brought to you by Clinica Sierra Vista.
Welcome back to the 17 News at Sunrise podcast, where we share your news on your schedule.
Working in the spirit of the Golden Empire, this is 17 News at Sunrise.
Good morning, everybody. It's 5 a.m. Thanks for waking up with us on a Monday. I'm Maddie Jansen alongside Elena Rusk. Many people noticed a giant plume of black smoke in the sky yesterday across Bakersfield. It was created by a fire burning at a rail yard near Bakersfield High School. Crews say they expect to contain it sometime today. Meantime, 17's Rob Hagan spoke with spectators who came out to get a closer look at the raging fire.
Hundreds of people stopped on California Avenue Sunday afternoon in traffic and on lawns with their phones, friends, and families to witness the massive fire burning a pile of railroad ties. The fire started about 3 p.m. Some feared the absolute worst.
When I first heard of the fire, I was scared. I was really scared because it was so close to the shopping center and our businesses, so I was afraid that the fire was going to jump, it was going to move.
Others were frightened it might be a rail car on fire. Some were afraid it might be a car carrying dangerous chemicals, but it was a large pile of creosote-soaked railroad ties. Sarah Leos, co-owner of Red Hot Thrills, raced to her adult novelty store when she found out it was near ground zero of the fire burning next door.
The firemen told me that it has been contained. It was possibly started by homeless.
A BNSF security officer on scene loaded a man in cuffs in the back of the patrol vehicle. It's still unclear why the man is detained. Jessica Champagne was taking a cosmetology class at City Nails in the shopping center behind the Jack in the Box at California and Oak. Class ended early.
A lot of people just started coming swarming over here, so we just watched the firefighters put water and take it out.
Some even followed the massive smoke plume for miles to witness what firefighters call a dirty fire.
You can see on the freeway, like all the way across town, the huge smoke plume. I think it's about one of the biggest ones I've seen since I've moved here.
Currently, there are no injuries reported, and the cause of the fire is under investigation.
That's the biggest campfire I've seen in town.
I'm Rob Hagan with 17 News.
A lot of people expressing concern about the contaminants in that smoke. Firefighters say the smoke's been rising vertically because of the current weather pattern and that it is not impacting our community. Turning now to your 17 Crime Watch. A Bakersfield man facing charges of possession of child pornography is under arrest. The Bakersfield Police Department announced the arrest of 42-year-old Jared Martinez. He was taken into custody Friday morning on Medio Luna Avenue in East Bakersfield. The BPD was not alone in making that arrest. The Department of Homeland Security, U.S. Secret Service, and California Highway Patrol were also involved. Another inmate has died while in the custody of the Kern County Sheriff's Office. This is the 10th time this has happened this year. KCSO says an unidentified 60-year-old man died on October 6th at a local hospital. The man was booked and awaiting trial. His death is under investigation. Last month, 2 inmates died while in the custody of KCSO. And turning now to a shocking crime in Southwest Bakersfield, where 2 men are accused of stealing 7 French bulldog puppies at gunpoint. Police say 2 men forced their way into a home on Borelli Avenue. One man allegedly flashed a gun at a woman inside the home while the other stole her dogs. The woman was not hurt, but the men took off. Anyone with information is urged to call BPD at 327-7111. Turning now to the coverage of the Israel-Hamas war. As Israel ramps up its military response to the Hamas attack, civilians are fleeing to safety. The death toll for Americans killed in the conflict has risen to 30, with more than a dozen still missing. Some now have a way to escape the violence in Gaza, with Egypt reopening its border today. NBC's Bree Jackson has the latest from Washington.
Week 2 of the Israel-Hamas war, and Israeli fighters are preparing an attack by land, air, and sea. In an interview on CBS's 60 Minutes Sunday, President Biden continued to pledge his unwavering support for Israel while condemning Hamas.
The most important thing is ending this brutality and to hold those who committed it accountable.
Secretary of State Antony Blinken is in the region meeting with partners.
To make clear that the United States stands with Israel to prevent the conflict from spreading.
As the fighting continues, the humanitarian crisis is getting worse. The Biden administration is working to get Americans out of Gaza through Egypt,
where they can be safe physically and where they can have access to the essentials, to food, water, medicine, shelter.
The U.S. is also ramping up efforts to free hostages.
Hamas wants to see if they can't get something, and I'm sure there'll be some kind of exchange that they'll be looking for.
A bipartisan group of lawmakers visiting Israel was forced to find shelter. After experiencing the dangers firsthand, they vowed to help.
We are working very hard to put together a comprehensive package to deal with the so many needs that Israel has.
A sense of urgency to send assistance to Israel and to address the growing humanitarian crisis in Gaza. And Prime Minister Netanyahu has invited President Biden to travel to Israel on a solidarity visit amid the war. The White House is considering the request. In Washington, Bree Jackson, NBC News.
Here at home, our local Palestinian community held an emergency rally over the weekend. They organized an all-out for Palestine demonstration to protest for Palestinian freedom and human rights Friday, nearly a week after Hamas conducted its first attack on Israel. As tensions between Israelis and Palestinians intensifies, many Palestinian protesters shared they do not excuse the attack that happened to Israelis, but they say what has unfolded is the product of what's been building up for years. A local Palestinian leader tells us there is a way to see this from both sides, and he hopes more people do that. A legal debate over how much water the city of Bakersfield can pull from the Kern River, the main source of water for Bakersfield residents and their agriculture. The judge in the case says there will be a decision in 2 to 3 weeks. Advocates on Friday saying we need to take action now to preserve wildlife. They argue the city must decide how much river water they actually need, and that allowing the city the entirety of the flow is absurd. Advocacy groups accuse the city of completely dewatering the Kern River when it diverts water. Accusations the city of Bakersfield calls false, irresponsible, and offensive. Attorneys say Bakersfield has already been working to increase water flow, but will not do anything at the expense of getting water to the more than 400,000 residents who call Bakersfield home.
A while back we had no water and everything was drying up, and actually we had, to where we were losing vegetation and animal, the fish and the birds. And now that we got it back, let's keep it back the way it should have been, before.
Advocates say excessive water usage violates public trust law, which allows anyone to use natural resources like water. The city opposes the injunction on the grounds of insufficient evidence. Conservationists are also taking issue with most of the water being used for agriculture. They say irreparable injury is done to fish, and it's more consequential than the loss of ag product. Turning now to our coverage of the battle for the gavel. We are entering week 3 now that the House has gone speakerless. After Bakersfield Congressman Kevin McCarthy was ousted by Democrats and a group of 8 House Republicans, the majority party nominated Louisiana Congressman Steve Scalise to take the job, but he didn't have the votes to get the seat. So now Ohio Congressman Jim Jordan is the nominee. McCarthy thinks he can get enough votes, but some House Republicans are still skeptical.
I think Jim Jordan can get there. I'm one who understands how difficult it is. I did walk in with more support during this time, but I believe at the end of the day, Jim can get there, and I'm doing everything I can to help him be able to become Speaker.
Nothing's impossible, but it's going to be really, really difficult based on what I'm hearing. I don't have a good read on what every single member is thinking. As you said, there's a lot of different reasons with different members. It's impossible for any member of our conference to get 217 true believers, 217 people who truly think you're the best, right?
A vote for the new speaker is set for tomorrow. The 17 News at Sunrise podcast is a production of KGET and Nexstar Media Group. For more on all of the headlines in today's show, head to kget.com.